ticket, that is NASA. Although opposition chief Raila Odinga is seen by many as the front-runner, Musyoka appears keen to turn the tables on his NASA core principle. Towards this end, he adopted an aggressive stance, making what many have interpreted as acerbic remarks that could prove corrosive to the opposition alliance unity. And the big question tonight we ask, are Kalonzo Musyoka's latest remarks a threat to NASA unity? Keep talking to us. The hashtag is the big question on Twitter. You can also text us on 22422. In studio tonight, political analyst Herman Manyora. We also have David Makali, who is also the Senate candidate for ANC, that is for Bungoma County. And from Mombasa Live, we have political analyst Barack Muluka. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. Let's begin with the latest, and that is the Mali declaration today. Ukambani leaders again very clear on who they want to go for this seat. And this is after the aspirants meeting yesterday, Wiper meeting in Nairobi. And first, let's take a look at what Kalonzo Musyoka said.
And this country has come of age. We must tell it directly as it is. I can't afford. You people call me diplomatic, wate mungwana, wacha ungwana upotee niwe mshenzi. Now look at me. At 63 years of age, why would I delay the decision to become president? Why? Munieleze jameni. I want one person to convince me. And if you know that you put Kalonzo there and Jubilee go home, why are you wasting time? Why are you prevaricating? Why?
Right, very interesting remarks from Kalonzo Musyoka. I'll start with you, Manyora. First, by those remarks, would you say Kalonzo is entertaining anything other than getting the presidency?
It is beginning to look like it might either be the presidency or nothing else. It is beginning to look so. That will be sad, I think, because I think the four gentlemen have made us believe that each of them wants it, bad enough, of course, but that they will support whoever will manage the flag bearer. And therefore, the way he's pushing is getting beyond friendly fire. We are beginning to reach a stage where we say we would wish they had no fire at all. Yeah, because it may be
detrimental now to NASA. What do you think?
Hussein, I don't agree. I think what Honorable Kalonzo is saying there is basically laying claim to the prize, and I think all the candidates have done as much. But consider that he is speaking to who? To understand the context of his fiery speech. He's addressing his supporters in his backyard, and so he has to offer them the hope that they expect from him. But I don't think that it is in his mind that if he doesn't get the presidency, Kalonzo is going to leave or go anywhere, because the question always begs, off to where? And you see, even as he speaks, he says, you know, who should delay him from the presidency? Of course, it's the Kenyan people who have delayed him, because he ran it, previously in 2007, and he is trying again. And I think this is basically his appeal to the public that, look, it is my time.
You see, I agree with that.
And it has nothing to do with a determination to leave. It is basically what I would call upping the ante for himself.
Upping and, like you say, giving the people hope. But it is getting to a point where the people are going to believe it has to be there. Now, let's assume then, after that is not him. You could lose those people, because you've driven them to a point where they have come to believe they have to get it.
You see, upping the ante has to do with saying, I tried the best. And if I don't get it, whatever I get, you, my people, know that I tried my best.
That is not coming out. That is not coming out clearly.
To me, that's how
it has to come like that. If you choose to be as aggressive as Kalonzo is, you must also at the same time leave some window. Tell your people, we are going for this thing and we will get it. But in the unlikely event somebody else gets. And it's only Farah Maalim who came out clearly saying that yesterday. And I think that's how it has to be. Look, even Raila has toned down, because he realizes it could cause some damage you wouldn't repair in time for the coming elections.
Okay, let me get Muluka's remarks if he's following the conversation from Mombasa. Muluka, what do you make from the remarks from Kalonzo Musyoka? By Kalonzo Musyoka. Barak, if you can hear us, I'm asking, what do you make from those remarks by Kalonzo?
I can hear you, though not so clearly. I get the general thrust to be that you are trying to find out what I make of the pronouncements by the former Vice President, Kalonzo Musyoka. There is a certain element of, as I said this morning, equivocating. He seems to be saying two different things at the same time. On the one hand, he seems to be suggesting that he's in this for the long haul. On the other hand, he seems to be suggesting that time is running out for him, and that if he doesn't get it, then it's not going to work. And that, I think, is sending the wrong signal to the NASA supporters. As we have said time and again, this thing is taking too long on the runway, and eventually it risks crashing. And it behooves the four principals within NASA to send out a message of hope, and not a very selfish, self-focused sort of message, which indicates that there is no unanimity of ideological orientation, that if there's anything that is unifying them, it seems to be the unity of selfish interest, self-pursuit, rather than a broader and bigger sponsoring thought.
Right. But I mean, this was yesterday when he talked. They've also talked today in Mali. We saw them on Friday in Madare, that is the NASA team now, the principals, saying they are united and saying the issue of the flag bearer will not tear NASA apart, and they will handle it the best way they can. What are we seeing here, Barak? I mean, on one hand, Kalonzo speaks like this, then we hear other people within the steering committee of NASA that is supposed to come up with modalities for nominations and even flag bearer. They also say people should wait and they will announce and they're united. But then individually we get members speaking differently and making pronouncements as to who they prefer to be their presidential flag bearer.
I think what we are seeing here is an outfit that seems to be cuddling defeat. That once in a while they come together for purposes of damage control. They send out the correct vibes, the correct kinds of sound bites, and then they quickly scatter and go to different outposts in the country. And once they get there, everyone having mobilized their lieutenants, they are sending double-speak messages across. And I do think that a lot of energy is hemorrhaging in this intra-group competition, to the advantage, of course, of their competitors. And if they carry on like this for a few more weeks, they might very well be staring at defeat.
Okay, I see you nodding, Manyoro.
Yeah, I think, Hussein, time has come, and I want to agree with Barak Muluka. Time has come for these gentlemen to bite the bullet. They must. And now you can understand how Kibaki Tosha came in. I think it is too Raila, having looked around, he knew there was going to be no way these guys were going to agree. Nyachae, Kalonzo, Saitoti. And he just ambushed them, pop, Kibaki Tosha. I think we might ask one of these gentlemen to wake up one day and say, Mudavadi Tosha, or whoever it is. I think, because it looks like they don't seem to see the urgency and the seriousness. Because I've always argued like this. The presidency of our country is not a small thing. Going for the presidency is going for something big. You have to give it the best you have. It calls for sacrifices. But I'm not seeing that kind of determination from the NASA team. And I'm beginning to think, if I were Uhuru, I would relax at home. I'm not seeing any opposition. Uhuru could just as well take a holiday.
Just because of this issue of a flag bearer?
It is not a small issue. You need to produce a Kibaki in 2002 to beat Moi. You need an incumbent, somebody in power. And the President Uhuru and William Ruto have said, these guys, we beat them with all the stuff we were carrying, ICC and stuff. And now we are in power. Let me tell you, to remove somebody who is in power is not a small thing.
I repeat what I said, Hussein. This is basically Kalonzo trying to be more assertive and trying to push.
You think people are reading too much into this?
People are reading too much from what is going on, because the counter argument to this is he's saying he's going for it, but he's saying, you know, somebody would say, he's saying, if it's not me, then I'm not in it. But then the question to ask, if you are saying indeed you have to be president this time round, so if you don't, if you move out of NASA, for example, where do you go? To run on your own? And how does that make your chances higher outside NASA? You can't go into Jubilee, or you can't go towards Jubilee.
Not to have known. There are always questions where
there is
people
something
say,
that
if it is not me, then not you either. So, mimi ntaharibu hii kitu, sisi yote tukose.
Yeah, but
somebody could do that. But people are beginning to look at Kalonzo and say, look here, this guy could be operating with that kind of principle. It's either me or I'll mess for you. And it's time he came up. Look, what are people like Omar Hassan? Do you read Omar Hassan? Are you seeing the way he's coming out of this thing?
Yes. But
that should tell you something.
Omar Hassan, Senator Hassan, has been talking and saying it has to be Kalonzo Musyoka. In fact, from where Senator Hassan is coming from, and he's been saying this to the media several times, is that he has seen other parties within NASA. We have members of other parties, also in fact in the steering committee, going out and saying Raila Tosha in ODM. Ford Kenya have announced it is Moses Wetangula. So Hassan is saying, why would you not want us to say Kalonzo Tosha?
I'm talking about the tone, and I'm talking about a person whom we take with a certain level of seriousness. Look at his stance on this issue of joint nominations. That begins to tell you, this is not the Omar Hassan I know. Something could be cooking within WIFA. And it's time NASA principals sat down and asked themselves, what are we chasing? What do we want?
Well, I think that from what I understand, NASA is running on its own calendar. They have timelines within which they're going to settle these things. The committee working on all these things,
big things are waiting for them.
Work.
Right.
They have set themselves, they've set themselves a timeline. You see, if they're going to respond to the public, they could stumble, they could fall, they could end up with the sort of things you're talking about. Somebody saying, declaring one of them to be, or throwing his weight behind one of them. And that will actually scuttle the whole process. Because arriving at a candidate must have some methodology, some system, some process. Because if it is not done that way, the constituencies or the blocks that support each of these candidates could actually get more disgruntled. So each of them is aware that it has to be managed properly. So I do think that this is just in the business of competition.
So you believe it's the committee that's going to handle this?
The committee will handle it.
Forget about it. You know, tell this man forget about it. The four gentlemen or three of them, if one balls, are going to have to agree. There is no committee that will tell them. There's no committee, technical or otherwise, that can tell Raila Odinga it is Mudavadi, not you. Forget about it.
But they signed up to the agreement.
They signed up.
The committee will guide them.
They signed up, David. But we have seen some members like Orengo responding to the issue about the 2013 MOU. This is, I think, a week ago. Orengo is part of this committee, coming out and saying there's nothing like an MOU. Them in Mombasa declaring it's Raila. Then we see Nyenze, also somebody in this committee, saying it's Kalonzo. The committee is already making pronouncements before they decide. You can see that
these committees, this committee is comprised of representatives of each of those parties. And each of those members has a right to push the agenda of each of those.
Do you believe these 12 gentlemen can decide
on behalf of the principles? Out of the ordinary. I think each of them is still pushing the agenda. But I can tell you the climate within that committee and the room in which the four gentlemen sit is going to sort out.
Let me tell you what is happening.
Let
me tell you what is happening. Some heat is being generated by Jubilee. Jubilee is working to destroy NASA, and this they must know. And what I'm seeing happening is because the principals are so determined to remain united, Jubilee is approaching the principals through junior members.
Okay. I mean, within NASA, that's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. That's what you believe?
I believe so.
All right.
The fullness of time.
We're going to listen to another soundbite from Kalonzo Musyoka, and I hope Barack Muluka, you're following and you can hear it. Let's take a listen.
This time there will be a properly worked out agreement ambayo itamaanisha what belongs to who. We don't want ever again to hear of an unregistered agreement. I have learned my mistake. My mistake is I've been too trusting. I've assumed other people have easy way of working.
if you could listen to what Kalonzo is saying, and Barak, if you listen to that, some have already started interpreting this as to mean, does it mean that Kalonzo is already conceding that he could be the running mate? That is why he's talking about a deal, and that this deal must be safeguarded.
If he is conceding, then he is doing so in the wrong forum, and his choice of words is also suspect. Because essentially the kind of message that he's sending out is a boardroom sort of message, the sort of things that, and I want to agree with Herman Manyora, that it's the four principals eventually who are going to agree. And these are the sort of things that he would be expected to be saying behind closed doors, where the four of them are. You don't come out to start preaching to the gallery and telling the gallery that these are my preconditions. You see, the whole thing starts taking on a very selfish kind of dimension and character, to the extent that even if the rest of the people were to conclude that you are logically the best placed person, you give the impression that you have coerced them into capitulation, and therefore that they are not necessarily backing you because they believe that you are their best choice, but because you have kind of coerced. There is also the possibility that someone might also understand that you could in fact be talking across the alley to Jubilee. You could be telling Jubilee that I'm willing to come, and I'm willing to come on the basis of certain very clearly scripted, signed and sealed conditions.
Okay.
So this double speak, this prevarication, this equivocation is likely to be in the end the undoing of NASA, where we seem to be seeing four individuals on an ego trip.
All right, but it's also good to mention that Kalonzo Musyoka has several times, including yesterday, said, I will still remain
with him.
And
But
stay
did you notice today,
within NASA.
Raila, in his reaction?
And we'll play that shortly. But first I want you to react to that soundbite we've seen from Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
What did you think he meant when he's talking about an agreement? And if there's an agreement this time, we must make sure that it's followed to the letter.
I think my reading of this, he's sending mixed signals. I think there's some confusion in the Wiper camp. That is what my reading, there's some confusion. But because we always have very little time for a show like this, I want to give them my advice. The best way is a mule approach. You know, breeding between a donkey and a horse. The mule does not have another generation after it. The NASA principles, I'm giving them a way out. Let them get one of them to be a transitional president. And let that person agree on two things. One, to serve for 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. Let him write the resignation documents, instruments of resignation.
And resign as a president.
Let them do that now, and the others keep it. On that material date, they will produce it and he goes home. Then this guy will run for 1 year in that capacity as president, and then he'll slide into the following elections. The second thing that transitional president must do is to midwife a constitutional amendment before he leaves office to create the position of prime minister. If they don't go that way, they are cooked.
First of all, Professor Herman Manyora knows that the constitution provides for elections after 5 years. You cannot have any other election.
The same constitution provides for vacation of office.
And then an agreement that fails to run counter to that is likely to be as false as the one that Kalonzo is trying to say.
But the president can resign after 4 years.
Because the problem is, once you found an
agreement... You know, in Gambia, just to correct you, in Gambia they agreed on 3 years. The opposition. And that's why they won.
Yes. Once your agreement is founded on such, loose ground as, not provided in the main law of the land, you're likely to have issues about implementation. And that is what, in fact, I would advise them to avoid. But I think it is true what Manyora says. There could be differences of opinion within each of these camps. Those who say, you know, and we've had this, that there are those who are, for example, in Kalonzo's camp, who even believe that Raila should be the ticket carrier. There are those who are there who believe he should be the one. There are those who are in Musalia's camp who may believe that Musalia should be the one, or believe even Raila should be the one. These differences may occur, and I think they exist. But let's not take the bubbles that are emerging from NASA to be conclusive. This, as I've said, are the aspects or ingredients of this competition, because each of these people is ambitious and they want to be president of this country. Right. You don't expect them to be lying low. What are they supposed to be talking about, except championing their own
about
needs?
About time.
You know? And I can assure you that, you know, let's take leaders for what they say. You know, I think if somebody has said, I'm going to remain here, what evidence do you have to the contrary?
I am saying this, and I'm inviting them to do this. I want one of them to be big enough to say, me, I'm out. Yes. But as I out, I think Hussein can lead this country and remove Jubilee from power. And I'm doing this in the interest of this country.
Right. Here is Raila Odinga's reaction today.
Tutokezwe sisi zote tuende pamoja bila kuuliza mimi nitapata nini. Wajaluo ikiwa kama wanakwenda kuwinda mnyama uenda huko nje, huanzi kusema ati hiyo mnyama tukipata ati mimi nitachukua paja, mimi nitachukua mkono, mimi nitachukua mbavu. Ukifanya namna hiyo upati hiyo nyama. Sasa tunaenda pamoja. Sasa ile ambayo tumeua huyo mnyama tunaweka hapa, kila mmoja mpate kitu, asirudi nyumbani na mkono mtupu.
Hamad.
Yes. If you know, I've listened to that clip and I've watched it. That man is not happy. That man is not happy. He has suppressed anger. I have seen it in him. And therefore I'm telling you, this so-called friendly fire, let me give you a simple. During my days, you would go for a girl, 3 of you. Now, we will say all manner of things about each other in order to get the girl. But there must be a limit. There must be a limit, so that if you end up getting the girl and marrying her, I should be able to come to your house and she makes tea for me. Because there's a line which if I cross, I'll never even visit you in your home.
Okay.
Well, I mean, take it that really the remarks that Kalonzo has made could be unsettling.
Correct.
Because
do you believe they are unsettling to Odinga the way, I mean, from his reaction?
I do think they are, but also give it to Kalonzo for, he has a right to say the things he's saying, because he's been through an agreement before, and that agreement has been trashed, the MOU, because some of the expectation was not realized. They didn't take power. Yeah. So the promise that, you know, Raila would be president for 1 term from the last election didn't materialize. So the fact has changed. So I think what Kalonzo was basically saying is, this time we'll take care of such eventualities. And if we're going into government, this should be our particular stakes in that government. So he's stating things which are actually expected of anybody to say, but I think the context and the place he said them. And I said earlier on, you remember he's saying these things in the context of his supporters he needs to work up. He needs to give hope to. Right. So that must be understood, rather than the message alone taken out and planted elsewhere.
Right, Barak, finally, I mean, what do you make of Raila's remarks? And finally, what do you think is the, I mean, now everybody's talking about Kalonzo Musyoka. There was a time when we had, I think towards the end of last year, people also talking about Moses Wetangula, because he was really talking and upping his stakes. We have not seen him talk lately as much as he was, or campaigning for himself and for Kenya campaigning for him. And Mudavadi, we've not seen it as much as Kalonzo Musyoka. So are we talking about Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga only? And what do you think, finally, how do you think NASA, what will be the lineup, if you may?
My interpretation remains that NASA's best option would be a combination of Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi, regardless of the order, for numerous reasons which have previously been explained. But I have also pointed out repeatedly that Kalonzo's approach is suspect. It is an approach that is too self-focused, and therefore an approach that can only detract and digress from a focus on issues. this far, this late into the campaign effort, Kenyans would like to be hearing what this super alliance is about. Is it just an alliance of leaders? Is it an alliance between the leaders and those they purpose to lead? What is so super about it? Is it that they are going to give us a super economy, super highways, super sports? Are they going to give us a super healthcare system, super transportation system, super security system? Are they going to make us feel like we are super citizens of a super cosmos? That is the kind of thing that they should be talking about today. But if they are still talking about things like I'm 63 years, I'm 71 years, it becomes extremely self-focused, and it betrays, as we have said, absence of a unifying, bigger, stronger ideological thought, missionary thrust and visionary thrust. And therefore those who would feel dissatisfied with the Jubilee government start feeling like NASA is actually not offering them anything that they can believe in. So if they want the citizens to continue believing in them, they had better cross that bridge just quickly and start painting beautiful portraits of super cosmos that Kenyans can believe in and buy.
Right, thank you so much, Barack Muruka, live from Mombasa. Finally, very briefly, what do you think is the ultimate lineup here for NASA? He's talking about Mudavadi and
when you talk about NASA,
Kalonzo, yeah.
It's very clear in my mind. They have to choose from two options. Either they want the most popular candidate who has the energy, has the resources, has the networks, has the infrastructure, and that becomes Raila, or they want somebody who is a product of boardroom where you tick boxes, tick, 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 and that gives you Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi. This they must make because now, if you choose Kalonzo Musyoka or my friend Moses Mudavadi, Musalia Mudavadi, Hussein, these people must inherit the infrastructure from Raila Odinga for them to even attempt.
That is assuming, of course. What he's talking is assuming Raila Odinga will be supported.
He has to support them and lend to them, as it were, his entire infrastructure. And he must also support them from within himself, inside him. Not just, okay, I've given you, no. He must support them and campaign for them, for any one of these two, in the same manner, if not much more, than he campaigned for Kibaki. So the choice is very simple. Do we give this somebody with the infrastructure, with the energy, with the resources, or do we chance somebody else and convince Raila to support that?
What do you think?
Else? I will not do that for them. If they pay me some consultancy.
David, finally.
Well, I think
I don't expect you to say that.
Yeah, you'll have to spare me that one because I'm a player. And I may say something that may be against my party leader now, you know, which
so you have something
I have
against
to be complimentary. but I mean, there are facts which are apparent. From research, from every kind of objective analysis of the four candidates, we know who has preeminence in terms of the numbers.
That is Raila.
And that's Raila. That's Raila. So as Manyora says, you know, they have to strike a compromise based on certain factors and considerations. But it will be, you know, to Raila's magnanimity to surrender the lead, the capacity, the preeminence he enjoys to any of the other aspirants, whether it's going to be Kalonzo or Musalia. And the thing is, what would he be asking for? A goat? In order to surrender that almost.
If he did that and say Mudavadi, by 10 o'clock, the thing is gone.
We'll have to leave it there. But thank you so much for coming. Tip Ngala says, what Kalonzo is talking about is what is available in the Constitution. There are only two major positions, the President and his deputy. He is therefore ensuring that he secures one of them. That is on 22422, and we still have more here. Somebody says, Hussein, NASA is intact. Kalonzo is negotiating from within. That is democracy. We in NASA are not worried. Why is Jubilee? Whatever happens, Kenya is ripe for a revolution. We were asking you, remember the question, Kalonzo Musyoka's latest remarks are threat to NASA. Let's take a look at what you're saying on Twitter. 59%. This question on Twitter saying yes, 41% are saying no. Keep talking to us. Thank you, our guests, for coming in. David Makali, political analyst, who's also a Senate candidate with the ANC party in Bungoma County. Haman Manyora, political analyst. And of course, live from Mombasa was Barack Maluka. Thank you so much all for making time for us tonight. Keep talking to us.